What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to take a look at Directive 8020. We got a couple new things, I'd say, to talk about. Number one was, of course, the trailer that they showed a few days ago. Number two is that turning points feature. And then I actually, I just typed it into Google and I found a really interesting preview of the game that I think did a really good job of actually kind of combining everything. But one of the things, and because actually all of these things do kind of relate to each other, one of the things that I noticed was when I saw the trailer, it looks really good. And, I tend to just say those words, and sometimes I don't go all the way to explaining myself. I really think that's important with a game like this because one thing I feel like they have learned is to take their time. And I feel like it is reflective. Yes, it's a trailer, okay? It's a trailer. I guess that's why it's important, all this other stuff we're going to talk about. But just by simply looking at the minute-and-a-half trailer, it seems more polished. It seems more like done. And I think that was a huge, huge problem. And even the preview article that we're going to look at, they bring up, remember, the original plan was to make a game every 6 months. Now, I've been saying that going back to Little Hope and back to Man of Medan and all that stuff. I mean, that was their goal, was to make a game every 6 months. And that's just insane. Like, there's no way, especially nowadays. We know games take like double as long as they did 7, 8, 9 years ago. So it's to expect it to take like a third of that time, or a fourth or a fifth or a sixth, you're never going to be able to do it. And I think it showed. I think it showed in the quality of some of these games just were not up to snuff. Some of them were not. So you had that. And I also just think the performance, I mean, some of these games came out in really, really rough conditions. So I know just to generalize, like it looks good might not mean anything, but I can see, at least from my perspective, I can see kind of the polish coming through. And I think that's a really, really great thing. So that's number one. Number two is this turning points feature, right? So it's the first time that they're doing this. They're basically going to have stop points. And for these major decisions, when you make a major decision, one of however many things are going to happen. I want to say two, but I guess it's not definitive that it would be two things. But a choice is going to occur, and that choice is obviously going to be so important that that's a turning point, and you can go back there. So it basically fixes the issue of going through the entire game, and you say, okay, well, I really wish I changed like that one or two things. Now you can go back to those specific things. Now, I think that's a really big deal for a certain group of people. I think the scenario I just said it's a big deal for as well, which even is somebody like me. I will say when I play any episodic game or any game like this, oftentimes I don't like to immediately find out the other choice. What I'll normally do is play through the entire game, define it as like my story, and then I would like maybe look it up at the very, very end. Back in the day, like Telltale is The Walking Dead, right? Revolutionary for this stuff. I went years without knowing the alternate outcomes. I did not do that. I did not go. I defined what happened to Lee and Clementine in season 1 as my own. I would say I did it up until the second game came out, and then I said, okay, I'll go back and look at what things like could have changed in the first game, and then I did it for the second game. But that was kind of my style. And I know not everybody plays it like that. I think some people, you make a decision and the first instinct is, okay, well, what would have happened if I chose that other thing? I like to just try to like ride it out and then like fix it kind of at the end. And I think this scenario works for either or, right? If you make a decision at that moment and you don't like it, or you want to see the other one, you literally are right there, right? You can just go there. Or somebody like me, play through the whole game and say, what would have happened at like that 5th decision and the 12th decision, right? Specifically those two. Let me go back and experience them. So I think it's a really, really cool feature that I think is going to work for a lot of people. Okay, so now looking at the preview from Fangoria here, they talk about the gameplay, and it's something I think could actually be really, really big. So they say, my goal was to reach a ladder on the ship, so I had to sneak through some hallways while avoiding the alien. The game felt much more involved this time around, and this stealth section felt like I was playing Alien Isolation. Previous Dark Picture games didn't offer this level of control, and it played out more like a movie rather than a video game. While these mechanics aren't revolutionary, it does help modernize Directive 8020. McDonald listed Resident Evil, The Last of Us, and Uncharted as gameplay inspirations. One of the things we've been trying to do for a long time is to have that threat and horror in exploration. It's not just the cutscene that where it can kill you, it can now find you in any of these spaces and kill you. You've got ways of getting around it and hiding to facilitate that. You need to make the movement controls different and better. And then they go on to talk about, again, like kind of the setup, taking their time versus, not taking their time. A 3-year gap between Devil in Me to this game. Our original ambition was to make a game every 6 months, like we talked about earlier. We wanted to take a bit more time for this one, really give it as much time and attention as we believe it deserves. It's a massive step forward for us. It's on Unreal Engine 5 now. We've thrown away all the exploration mechanics, the movement, the animations, and the systems underneath that we'd progressed a long way with The Devil in Me and started again based on our learnings. So right there, I mean, those couple paragraphs I think are very important. I've talked about this for like years. I feel like I'm one of the only people that have talked about this for years and years and years. If you remember, there were interviews way back in the day, and they talked about how they really couldn't iterate because of the structure, because these games, obviously come one after the other, come so close. They're part of this anthology, but they had talked about at several different points, in this anthology so far, they wanted to try different gameplay things, but they couldn't, because they were really locked in to a structure. And like, without seeing gameplay myself, I guess we can't fully judge it, but am I expecting Alien Isolation? No, I'm not. I think that was maybe like the sense of like the atmosphere and the tone and stuff for that gameplay, but I do expect the gameplay to feel different. Like the days of like the really janky walking and like spinning a character, to kind of like turn and pivot directions. I think those days are over. I literally think this game is going to quite literally feel different. And I feel like that needed to happen because, I mean, it's tough because they had to completely redo it, hence why it took so long, right? But the way it was building for years, like they were improving what they had, but it was only what they had. There was all this other stuff over here, but what they had was growing, but they didn't have that stuff because they literally could not integrate it. So I think it was a worthy sacrifice, to be quite honest with you. I think this was the best decision they could have made. And, because along with this turning point, along with just giving it more time and polish, because here's the thing, so many of these games have relied solely, actually all of them, on the characters and on the story, right? And if you can't nail that, the gameplay is not coming to save you in any of them. Maybe like 10 situations and like quick time events, but like quite literally the moment to moment gameplay is not coming in to save the day whatsoever, right? You got to rely on everything else. Now I feel like it can be a little bit more like everything can matter a little bit, right? Like if the story and the characters are a little bit of a letdown, maybe there's some just like really cool gameplay moments where you feel maybe it does feel like Alien Isolation, right? And those moments can almost carry and help the game versus the other stuff. So just a more balanced game. And they do say somewhere else in that article, like they took a lot of the criticism and feedback, I think specifically with The Devil in Me, to which I had a lot. I thought that was one of their worst games. And you can go back, watch my review for all that. But they said they took a lot of that stuff and they put into like spreadsheets and marked it all down so they knew what they had to fix, going forward. So I love to see that. I love to see the feedback making an impact. And I think that's how it should be. No crossing of boundaries, no attacks, no threats, no nothing like that. Just simply, hey, here's what I think you could do better in these games, and them saying, all right, let's put our ego aside and let's listen to what these people have to say. That's how I think these things should be more often. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.